afternoon, dear students. Today we are looking into a very interesting topic, natural dyes. Natural dyes or synthetic dyes are the substances which are used to color any material for that matter. It need not have to be the textile always. It can be food, it can be cosmetics, it can be textiles, it can be papers. So all different types of products which are given color is what is the purpose of your dyes. So in this we are incorporating the concept of natural dyes which are readily available in nature. So why we have to take natural dyes as the major substitute for the synthetic dyes? We all know synthetic dyes are being used very extensively, but it also has hazardous effects like it is carcinogenic, it is not good for our health, and if at all, if it is being incorporated in food substances, it creates hazardous concepts to our body. So to find an alternative to this, we have the next part, that is our natural dye, which was one that is being used traditionally by mankind from the very old days. So as the name suggests, natural dyes or colorants are the ones that are being derived from plants, invertebrates or minerals. So most of the plant origin includes like roots, wood, bark, berries, lichens, leaves, flowers, nuts and seeds. Whereas the other sources of your natural dyes include insects, shellfish and also mineral compounds. So these natural dye sources are being used for your textiles, leather, food industry and almost all other products where we require color. So this is not something that came very new to the market. So it is available right from the very ancient time. So it is recorded that by China on 2600 BC itself, the king had the presence of these natural dyes that has been present. You can also see in the tombs of Egypt the presence of alizarin, which is also another natural compound that has been available. Apart from that, there are other natural compounds which also been seen in various historical periods like Alexander the Great during the year 541 BC shows the use of purple color, whereas in William Henry Perkin in 1856 discovered the first synthetic stuff whereby slowly our natural dyes started to go back from its use. So we are telling about natural dyes. So what is the purpose of using a natural dye? So when we look on to the advantage part, it is far more advantageous than your synthetic dyes. So it includes like it is eco-friendly. Each color gives you very unique pattern or very unique design, and it is free from all the carcinogenic compounds, and it can also be used as an antioxidant because we all know most of the plants contain the antioxidant property in them. So when we color our fabric with these natural products, of course these antioxidant property will also be imparted into the textile product or even it is to the food that we are going to color. So apart from this, the cloths that are dyed with natural dyes has higher profits to the dyers and also the manufacturers, and you can get varieties of shades that can be produced, and this can also be used in cosmetics. As two sides of the coin, when we have an advantage, there also remains the disadvantage factor. So moving on to the disadvantage factors of natural dye, it is more expensive than a synthetic dye and the color fades very quickly and it is little difficult to produce. For example, if you have to create a shade of brown, the next time producing the same shade variation is little bit tough. So that is one said disadvantage of your natural dyes, and it requires vast area and land while we produce the dyes, and time consumption is also relatively little high, and reproductive of the shade is difficult as I said you before, and bright colors cannot be obtained. So if you see, you can see the usage of more of mild colors in this natural dye concept. So how do we take this? So we said there are natural dyes, we can get it from different sources like plants, animals, insects, etc. But how can we extract it from these various sources? So basically there are 4 major sources of extraction method through which we extract our natural dye. The first one is the aqueous media. So aqueous media is nothing but usage of water as the major source of extraction. So what we do here is we do the simple process of boiling the dye stuff with soft water at 100 degrees Celsius. So once you boil it, you take it, you filter, and the solution or the end product that you get is your dye solution. The same applies to the next method, that is your alkaline method, where not just water alone, we also add a percentage of alkali. So the commonly used alkali, that is around 1% of alkali solution is being added to 1 gram of sodium carbonate or sodium hydroxide. So for about 100 ml of water, we take 1 gram of sodium hydroxide along with the natural dye, and then we do the extraction process. The method by which it is being extracted is called as your alkaline method. The third method being the acidic method. So as we saw the alkaline method, the acidic method is also somewhat similar to it, where we use acid instead of alkali. So we use 1% of acid here. So the commonly used acid is your hydrochloric acid. So once you extract, you filter, and the obtained solution is your dye solution. We also have a fourth method of extraction, which is your alcoholic method, where you add 50 ml of alcohol to 50 ml of soft water, and then you enter the dye material, you boil it, and then further you filter the solution and use it as your dye solution. So these are the 4 common methods of dye extraction that we generally follow. So apart from these methods, there are other methods also through which we can adopt this extraction procedure. So in them, the first one is your ethanol method, where you use any one ethanol as the base. The procedure goes like, you have taken the powder and with petroleum benzene at around 60 to 80 degrees Celsius, you take an ethanol and then you extract it for 72 hours. After the prescribed hour, you filter it using your filter paper and then you dry it at 45 degrees Celsius. The final extract that you get is being stored in sterile bottles and kept in refrigerated conditions. For methanol method, the same way the powder is taken and it is extracted by 20% of aqueous methanol using Soxhlet extraction method. The dye powder, which is slightly soluble in hot water and completely soluble in alkali medium, is being stored at your room temperature. So this were the various methods through which we do the extraction of your natural dyes. So after extracting the natural dye, then follows the regular procedure of dyeing our fabric. So before going into that, we should also look on to the various classifications of your natural dyes. So we classify in different ways. So the first one is based on the source that they are being obtained. So the first source is whether it is a plant source or whether it is an animal source or whether it is a mineral source. From where we obtain that particular natural compound is what we classify under the source. So here we have around 500 plant species which are being identified to produce different colors of dyes to our fabrics as well as the food particles. So you can just have a look at it. So what are the parts of the plant and what are the common dye stuffs that we can obtain from them. So to see an example, we have roots where we have the dye stuffs like turmeric and madar. From barks and branches, you get colors like purple bark, saffron wood, red sandalwood, etc. Leaf, indigo, henna, tea, cardamom, coral and your lemongrass. Whereas from flowers or the actual petal part, You have examples like your marigold, dahlia, kusum, etc. And fruits and seeds, pomegranate rind is one commonly used compound, and betel nut and myrobalan are the various or examples from where you can get the natural sources. So from the mineral sources, we have various mineral sources that are being used along with this. So examples are, you have your ochre dye, which is being obtained from the impure earthly ore of iron, and usually it gives you a red or a yellow color stain to the compound. So animal sources are also being available for these natural dyes. So animal sources includes like the secretion of the insects, and the dried insect bodies are said to be the major sources of your natural dyes. So you can see an example here where the shellfish, you extract the color from the shellfish and you use it as a natural dye to dye your yarns. So these are the classification based on the first major one, that is based on their sources. So we saw about three major sources. One was from your plant source, the second one was from the mineral source, and the third one being the animal source. So the next classification, that is this classification based on the chemical composition that is being present. So every compound has one composition or one compound which gives color to the product. So certain compounds are also present in your natural dyes. For example, you have your carotenoids, which gives the red color to our components. So examples of them are your red of peppers and tomatoes, oranges and carrot, and your citrus fruit. So the compound that gives the color is nothing but your carotenoids. So this is the chemical structure of how your carotenoids will look like, which gives the color to the compound. So the next compound that we have is your flavonoids. The flavonoids is supposed to give the yellowish color and sensitive to pH. So most of your yellow color dyes that you obtain is due to the presence of this flavonoids in that natural product. So this is the chemical structure for the same. So the third one we have is your anthraquinoids, which is also known as anthracinidine or diazoanthracene. So this is an aromatic organic compound which gives again an yellow color, but not only yellow color, you get shades of red also. So the two examples are your alizarin and your madar plant, where you get more of red shades to the coloring compound. So the third classification that we have is the classification based on its application. So here we have further classified as substantive dyes, adjective dyes, monogenic dyes, polygenic dyes, soluble dye, insoluble dye, and modern dye. Looking at the first one, which is your substantive dyes. So these are the natural dyes which doesn't require any mordant to color the compound. So to tell it in general, for dyeing a natural product, you require a mordant. Mordant is nothing but, the literal meaning of mordant means to bite. So mordant is a compound which helps in more absorption or more taking in of your chemicals or your coloring matters to the fiber. So when we don't require a natural mordant at all, then that classification of dye, we tell it as your substantive dyes. So the examples of it are your lichens, your indigo, and your saffron. So the next classification is your adjective dyes. So adjective dyes are the one that requires a mordant to bind the color to the fiber. So they basically should have a mordant so that the color that is being obtained from the plant source or even from the animal source is penetrated, or it binds well with the fiber structure. So that classification of dye is known as your adjective dyes. So the examples of this is your arjun bark, pomegranates, and your madar. The third classification we have is your monogenic dyes. So monogenic dyes is the one that gives you a single color irrespective of the mordant that you use. For this, let me tell it with an example. For example, when you are dyeing your plant or dyeing your fabric with turmeric, if you are using a lime juice as a mordant, the color would be bit orange. So if you are using some other mordant, it will have a different color. But monogenetic classification of dye is what? Whatever might be the mordant that you may use, the color that you obtain will be the same. That is, if it is turmeric, the color that you obtain will always be yellow irrespective of the mordant that you use. That classification is known as your monogenetic dyes. The second one that we have is a polygenetic dyes, where it gives different color for different mordant. So as I said you as an example, when we use turmeric, when you are mixing lime juice to it, it gives you a shade of orange, neither the shade of yellow. So this type of classification is known as your polygenetic dyes. The next one we have is your soluble dyes. So the soluble dyes, which are one that gets easily dissolved in water. So obviously insoluble dyes would be the one that doesn't easily get soluble in water, but it requires a solidizing agent or maybe a wetting agent to make it soluble. So these are the major classification, and in them you have the other one, which is nothing but your mordant dye. So mordant dye is a substance that is used to dye a fabric with the help of a mordant. So there are common mordants that can be used. So you can see an example here where we are dyeing the wool with alum and with iron. So when you see the two different colors, you get a color variation when you are using a mordant. So we have the next classification, which is classification of mordant. So we have two different common classification of mordant. One is your natural mordant, the second one is your synthetic mordant. So they are also further classified as metallic mordant, brightening mordant, dulling mordant, tannins, oils type mordant. So when we look on to the natural mordant, in natural mordant you have the first one as alum. So alum is a specific compound that is being hydrated from your potassium aluminum sulfate. Okay, so you generally tell it as spadicum, where you use for as an after shaving cream or after shaving rub. We use this alum. It is a white color crystalline structured compound where we powder this compound and then we extract it and use it as a mordant when we are commonly dyeing a fabric with your natural dyes. So this is the first one. The second mordant dye being your iron. So the iron tends to darken the dye on the fabric. So when you want to go with darker dyes, then it is well recommended to use iron as a common mordant for it. So what we have to do is, the old nails are being boiled in water and this creates an effective free iron mordant. So this water you take it and you use it as a mordant while you are dyeing your natural fabric. So the next mordant that we commonly use is your copper. So we have seen this old British coins which has a small hole in it. So that can be used also as a source of a mordant. It is more effective, and to produce lovely greens you can use copper as the mordant. But one disadvantage of using copper is it is a little bit toxic in its nature. So the other synthetic mordants that are being commonly present are, you have chromium, cupric sulfate, ferrous sulfate, tin. So all these are the very commonly used synthetic mordants that can be used for natural dyeing. Also you have your potassium dichromate, stannous chloride. These are the various mordants that we have. So we saw now what mordant is and what are the different classifications of mordant. So before going on with the next concept, that is how we have to apply, that is application methods. So before that, first we saw what natural dye is and what are the different sources. So we saw about the different sources of mordant, the different types of mordant like natural mordant and synthetic mordant. So with this we wind up today's session. In tomorrow's session we will be seeing about the different application procedures for natural dye. Thank you.